Abundance is not an achievement obtained through excessive effort or senseless sacrifice. It is not the goal of those who run aimlessly, nor the reward of those who confuse hard work with true creation. Abundance is a river that flows serenely, waiting for the soul to align itself with its course. Imagine a garden hidden behind a door that has always been open, though few dare to cross it. In that garden, the soil is fertile, the fruits grow without anxiety, and each planted seed finds its perfect moment to sprout. It is not the farmer who dictates the harvest time, but the wisdom of nature itself. This is what happens with prosperity. It is not a race, but an encounter with the essential rhythm of the universe. When the heart listens in silence, it discovers that abundance has already been granted since the beginning of time. It is not something to beg for or desperately pursue. It is a divine inheritance, an innate right that only awaits recognition. The key is not in the desire to accumulate, but in learning to receive with gratitude. Those who understand this stop fighting the waves and start floating on them. They trust that the current is carrying them right where they need to be. They know that every obstacle is a sign, every delay is a lesson, and every step, even the most uncertain, is part of the path forged by destiny. Close your eyes for a moment and feel the certainty that abundance isn't something that will come one day, but something that already exists. It's not outside, but within. And when you finally tune into that truth, the universe will deliver to you what has always been yours. The frequency of wealth. From the moment you opened your eyes to the world, you were surrounded by stories of struggle and deprivation. You were taught that wealth was a steep mountain that only a few managed to climb, that money had to be earned through effort and sacrifice, that abundance was a privilege reserved for those born under the right star. But those are just shadows dancing on a cave wall, reflections of a belief system built on fear. True wealth isn't something earned through sweat and pain, but a constantly flowing river, waiting for you to learn to dive into its current. The ancient sages knew this well. In silent temples and endless deserts, in sacred forests and mist-shrouded mountains, they whispered a truth forgotten by the modern world. Abundance is as natural as the air you breathe. It cannot be depleted. It cannot be restricted. It is not the property of a few. Like the sun that shines on the just and the unjust alike, wealth is a state of being, an eternal melody that needs only to be heard. Your relationship with money shouldn't be a battle, but a dance. It's not about greedily accumulating or fearfully holding on. It's about learning to receive with open arms, trusting that the universe is generous to those who are in harmony with their own essence. Imagine your consciousness as a glass vessel. If it's clouded by fear, doubt, or inherited beliefs from generations who saw scarcity as an unbreakable law, the light of abundance cannot penetrate. But if you begin to clear away those impurities, if you allow wisdom to dissolve the chains of the past, then the flow of wealth will be present, because it has always been there, waiting to be acknowledged. The laws that govern the universe are neither arbitrary nor cruel. They are as precise as gravity, as constant as the sunrise. When you align yourself with them, prosperity ceases to be a distant dream and becomes a palpable reality. You don't need to force it. You don't need to fight it. You just need to open the eyes of your soul and remember that abundance is not a destination, but a state of being. Right now, as you read these words, the energy of wealth already surrounds you. It's not in gold or coins. It doesn't reside in bank accounts or inherited fortunes. It pulses in the air, in the earth beneath your feet, in every beat of your heart. It has been with you since the beginning of time, waiting for you to be ready to receive it. Your journey to true prosperity begins now. And on this path, you'll discover that the key isn't running faster, but stopping, breathing, and allowing the abundance that has always been yours to flow effortlessly toward you. Part 1. Awakening to the Frequency of Wealth. Chapter 1. The Soul of Gold. In the fragrant alleys of the Marrakech souk lived a tailor named Elias. His hands, worn by years of basting fabrics and mending worn garments, were his greatest treasure. Every stitch he made was precise. Every seam bore the imprint of his dedication. Yet, despite his skill, wealth seemed to elude him, like the wind that caresses the face without ever settling. The coins he earned through his hard work drained from his purse as quickly as they arrived. They evaporated into bread, into candles, into the small taxes of daily life, leaving him in an unbreakable cycle of scarcity. Elias, like many in his neighborhood, had grown up believing that wealth was only earned through endless sacrifice, that gold was an elusive creature, destined to dwell in the palaces of merchants and not the humble dwellings of artisans. One night, as the moon bathed the cobblestones of the market with silver light, Elias lowered the blinds of his modest shop with a sigh. Just then, an old man with a white beard and deep eyes appeared before him. His robes were simple, but his movements had the grace of someone who possessed more than he let on. Without saying a word, the old man reached out and placed a gold coin in the tailor's palm. Its surface shone with an almost mystical glow, as if it held a secret within. "This coin will show you the true face of abundance," the old man whispered, and before Elias could ask a question, he vanished into the gloom of the night. Intrigued, Elias put the coin in his purse and returned home. The next morning, when he reached into his pocket, he found the same gold coin, untouched, despite having spent it on bread and spices the night before. Day after day, the same thing happened. No matter what he used it for, it always reappeared in his purse at dawn. For weeks, Elias contemplated that enigma, until he finally understood the lesson the coin revealed to him. Money wasn't something to be possessed or lost, but an inexhaustible stream that flowed according to the rhythm of life. Trying to hold it in fear only held him back, while letting it go with confidence allowed it to return multiplied. In the same city lived a merchant named Zahira. Her spice and essential oil shop had been passed down for generations, but was now on the verge of closure. Zahira anxiously counted every coin, fearing that each transaction would leave her with less than she needed to keep going. Her customers sensed her distress and, unwittingly, were turning away from her business. One day, Zahira heard about the change in Elias's life. Intrigued, she sought him out and asked him to share his secret. "Gold is like the air you breathe," Elias told her. "You don't possess it or hold it, but rather you let it flow. If you treat each coin with fear, you'll push it away. But if you trust in its return, it will come to you in unexpected ways." Zahira, though skeptical at first, decided to give it a try. Instead of seeing each sale as a loss, she began to see it as an act of sacred exchange. She began blessing every coin that came out of her box, thanking the flow of abundance. With every spice she sold, she offered a genuine smile and words of gratitude. Soon, something extraordinary happened. Her shop, once empty and silent, began to fill with customers drawn to the warmth and renewed energy emanating from it. Her income multiplied, not because the quality of her products had changed, but because the way she perceived wealth had changed. Sometime later, Zahira and Elias met again at the market. He smiled at her knowingly, knowing she had discovered the deepest truth of all. Abundance is not a treasure hidden in the vaults of the powerful, but a river that flows endlessly for those who dare to trust its current. And so, in the narrow streets of Marrakech, two souls awakened to the mystery of gold, finally understanding that wealth is not something you seek, but something you align yourself with. The revealed truth: abundance is not found in what you possess, but in the relationship you establish with its natural flow. Ancestral practice: the dance of invisible gold. Find a quiet corner where the outside world falls silent and the echo of your own breathing becomes your only companion. Hold a coin in the palm of your hand and let its presence awaken all your senses. Feel its weight, light yet firm, like a symbol of all that flows through life. Explore its texture, smooth in some places, rough in others, like the path of existence itself. Perceive its temperature, cold at first, but warm upon contact with your skin, like the energy of abundance when it meets a receptive heart. Close your eyes and let the coin cease to be an object. Allow its essence to transform into a river of golden light, a current that flows through your skin and merges with every beat of your heart. Imagine that this light isn't just yours. You see it moving through history, passing from hand to hand, from generation to generation, like a silent witness to the flow of life. It has been in the pockets of merchants and poets. It has crossed oceans and deserts. It has been given with love and withheld with fear. Now, in this moment, it belongs to you, not to be possessed, but to remind you that wealth is not static. It is an eternal dance between giving and receiving. Feel this energy expanding beyond you. Visualize it connecting with the world, nourishing crops, creating homes, and fueling dreams. Observe how it flows naturally, unhindered, without resistance. Make this meditation a daily ritual. Allow yourself to experience money not as a cold, finite metal, but as a vibration that responds to your gratitude and trust. Learn to see it not as a possession, but as a traveler who always returns to those who treat it with respect and generosity. And when the time comes to drop the coin, whether in an exchange, an act of generosity, or an investment, do it with a smile. Because now you understand the secret that few know. True wealth is not measured by what you accumulate, but by the harmony with which you let everything flow. Chapter 2. The Hidden Melody of Abundance. In a small village lost in the mountains, where the river never stopped whispering its secrets, lived two souls, Aram and Lila. Aram, a young fisherman with calloused hands, and Lila, a free-spirited woman who had inherited her grandmother's herbal medicine shop. Despite living in the same place, their paths had never crossed. The river, however, seemed to unite them, as if the water were an invisible current drawing them toward the same destiny. Aram had been raised in the tradition of daily struggle, in the idea that wealth was obtained only through effort and sacrifice. Every morning, he rose before dawn, cast his net into the river, and fought the waters in search of the fish that would feed his family. Over the years, the river had taught him many lessons, but none as important as the one he would learn that afternoon. Lila, for her part, had always been a woman of quiet wisdom. In her herbal shop, she sold natural remedies and listened to the stories of those who came seeking relief. Unlike Aram, she didn't see life as a constant struggle, but as a flow, a dance with nature that should be respected. She had learned from her grandmother that wealth was not only material, but also spiritual. The gold that shines in your hands may fade, but the gold you hold in your heart never leaves, her grandmother used to say. One afternoon, as Aram was casting his net, a stronger than usual current swept him toward an unfamiliar corner of the river. Drowning in exhaustion and frustration, he felt life was beating him down once again. Then, he saw a figure from the shore. It was Lila, who was watching him without surprise, as if she already knew what was about to happen. "Why do you struggle with the river so much?" she asked, her voice soft but full of wisdom. "The river isn't here to defeat you. It's here to teach you." Aram, exhausted and uncomprehending, fell silent. Lila walked toward him, approaching with calm steps, the river water caressing her feet. The river flows effortlessly. It doesn't fight against stones. It goes around them. It doesn't stop in the face of drought. It follows its course. And you, Aram? Why do you fight against what you can't control? Lila's words echoed in Aram's mind. For years, He had been convinced that constant effort was the only way to achieve abundance, that hard work was the key to unlocking the door to wealth. However, something in the way Lila spoke, in the serenity of her gaze, made him question his own thoughts. "It's not just about what you have in your hands, Aram," she continued. "What matters is what you carry in your heart. Abundance doesn't come only through physical effort, but through the opening of the soul. When you let go of fear and the desire to control everything, that's when true prosperity begins to flow to you." Aram looked at her, not quite understanding. She smiled softly, as if hoping her words would sink deep into his soul. "Come with me. I'll teach you to listen to what the river has to say." And so, from that afternoon on, Aram began to learn a lesson he had never imagined. Every day, he joined Lila on her walks along the river, where she showed him the small wonders of the natural world. She taught him to observe the unhurried waters, to notice how the trees bent without breaking, how the birds circled effortlessly. The river is not in a hurry, and yet it always reaches its destination, Lila would say. Over time, Aram began to understand that wealth wasn't just a matter of coins or fish. True abundance lay in balance, in the constant flow between what is given and what is received. When he learned to let go of the constant struggle, something inside him changed. The river was no longer an enemy to fear, but a friend to dance with. One day, Aram and Lila found themselves in the same corner of the river where it all began. Aram had learned to fish slowly, to cast his net calmly, knowing that the river would always give him back what he needed, and sometimes even more than he expected. When the fish jumped out of his net, he looked at them with gratitude, understanding that everything that came to him was part of a natural cycle, one he shouldn't force, but simply accept. "Thank you for teaching me to listen to the river," Aram said humbly. "Thank you for being willing to learn," Lila responded. "The river is always here, waiting for you to tune into its flow. Wealth is not in what you possess, but in how you align yourself with life itself." In a village surrounded by mountains, lived a man named Santi. From a young age, he had learned to work hard, to fight for what he wanted. He firmly believed that life could only offer what you could earn with effort. His days were filled with tireless work, but he often felt he wasn't getting what he desired. Abundance seemed like a distant concept, reserved for those fortunate enough to already have wealth. Santi lived under the premise that money, success, and peace were only for those who knew how to earn these things through sweat and perseverance. One day, while walking along a path near the river, Santi came across an old woman sitting under a tree. Her wrinkled face reflected years of wisdom, and her presence emanated a calm that contrasted with the turmoil Santi felt in his heart. The old woman, upon seeing him, smiled kindly. "Why is your heart so heavy, young man?" she asked him in a soft but authoritative voice. Santi, not fully understanding, replied, "Life isn't easy. I work every day, but abundance seems to elude me. I don't know what else to do to attract prosperity into my life." The old woman stared at him, as if she saw something beyond what he could see in himself. "Abundance isn't attracted by fighting the currents of life, Santi. Abundance flows to you when you align yourself with the frequency of the universe, when you recognize that everything you desire is already within you, waiting to be released." Intrigued, Santi sat next to her and listened attentively as the old woman spoke to him about the invisible laws that govern life. She explained that, like the wind, which cannot be seen but can be felt, abundance also has a frequency, a vibration that can be tuned into. What you think and what you say creates your reality, the old woman told her. The key is in the word. If you repeat with conviction the words that align your soul with abundance, your life will begin to reflect that vibration. Santi, still hesitant, asked, "Is it that simple? Is it enough to say a few words?" The old woman nodded. It's not just saying them. It's feeling them with your whole being. It's believing in them. The word is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between thought and manifestation. The mind and heart must be in harmony. And when that happens, abundance flows to you effortlessly. That afternoon, the old woman asked Santi to repeat several times with complete conviction, "I am in tune with the frequency of infinite abundance. Money flows to me with ease and joy." She explained that he shouldn't just say the words, but feel them as if they were already a truth in his life. Do it every morning when you wake up. Do it with a heart full of gratitude, and soon you will see how your life begins to change. Santi, although skeptical, decided to follow the old woman's advice. That same night, he sat in his modest room and repeated the words she had taught him. At first, the words sounded empty, as if he were saying them just for the sake of it. But as he repeated them, something began to change. A slight sigh of peace ran through his body, and for a moment, he forgot his worries. Days passed, and each morning, Santi continued his practice. At first, nothing seemed to change, but little by little, his perception of life began to transform. He began to notice the small blessings that had previously gone unnoticed. A kind greeting from a neighbor, an unexpected opportunity to sell more products in his shop, the warm feeling of being part of a community. As he repeated the old woman's words, he felt something inside him align with an energy he couldn't fully understand. But that felt right. One day, upon returning from work, Santi realized that not only had he begun to receive more, but his perspective had also changed. He no longer felt the need to constantly fight for what he wanted. Money was no longer a goal, but an energy that flowed toward him, like water following its course. With this new awareness, Santi began to see that abundance wasn't just material. There was richness in the peace he felt in the morning, in the smile of a child, in the time spent with loved ones. A year later, Santi met the old woman again on the same riverside path. He was no longer the harried young man he had been. His face reflected serenity, and his heart was filled with gratitude. "You've learned your lesson, Santi," the old woman told him with a smile. "Always remember that abundance isn't something you seek outside of yourself. It's a frequency activated from within. All you need to do is align yourself with it and allow it to flow through you." Santi nodded, finally understanding what the old woman had taught him. It wasn't just a matter of physical effort, but of inner harmony, of believing that life was ready to offer him what he needed when he was ready to receive it. Chapter 3. The Secret of Prosperity. In the quiet of an ancient library, surrounded by shelves containing forgotten volumes, Sophia found a small scroll that, unknowingly, would forever change her understanding of wealth. She had been searching for days, poring over the yellowed pages of books in ancient languages, when something on the scroll caught her eye. "Within you resides the same power that the great masters of old possessed," it read, the words seeming to resonate within him. The scroll spoke of ancient wisdom traditions, from the temples of India to the esoteric schools of the Greek philosophers. The enlightened beings of ancient times did not view wealth as something available to the fortunate few, but as a cosmic law that followed immutable principles. According to this ancient text, prosperity was not a product of luck, but a direct manifestation of the divine mind. Those who understood the mysteries of the universe recognized money not as a simple currency, but as a representation of the infinite abundance that flows from the cosmic mind, a force that didn't distinguish between poor and rich, between weak and strong, but responded to the vibration of those who knew how to align themselves with it. "Your word is your magic wand," the scroll continued, "because when you speak with certainty and conviction, the universe must respond." These words surprised her, but at the same time, a profound sense of truth emerged within her. These weren't just the philosophical ideas of ancient sages. They were living principles that formed the basis of a deeper reality, a universal law that governed all that existed. Sophia then recalled the teachings of a teacher she had heard in her youth, someone who had spoken of the power of the spoken word. That teacher had affirmed that prosperity was a divine birthright, within everyone's reach, and that whatever one desired, be it wealth, health, or love, could be attracted if the correct vibration was emitted into the universe. The important thing was not simply to desire it, but to believe with one's whole being that one deserved to receive it. Inspired by these new revelations, Sophia recalled a story she had heard as a child. It was about a farmer named Thomas, who had inherited a vast tract of land that, for many years, had been considered barren. No one believed the land could produce anything but weeds and rocks, and many had mocked his boldness in deciding to keep it. But Thomas was no ordinary man. He had heard of the teachings of the mystics, and although many considered him a madman, he never lost faith in the power of words. Every morning at dawn, he walked alone through his fields, and with a firm voice full of conviction, he would say, "This land is blessed. It is full of abundance. My harvest will be prosperous." The neighbors laughed at him, for everyone knew the land was fruitless. However, Thomas did not let himself be discouraged. Day after day, he repeated his mantra, even when he saw no immediate results. As time passed, something mysterious began to happen. Shoots that had never appeared before began to emerge. Plants that seemed to have no future began to grow and flourish. The land that everyone had considered useless began to bear the most delicious fruit seen in many years. For those who didn't understand the law of the universe, this seemed like a miracle. But for Thomas, it was simply the result of applying what the great sages already knew: that the spoken word, when uttered with certainty and confidence, has the power to shape reality itself. In a short time, the barren land was transformed into the most fertile in the region, and Thomas's fame spread beyond the mountains, even reaching other villages. Sophia closed her eyes, feeling the cool breeze coming through the library window. She remembered how the ancient masters spoke of connecting with the energy of the universe, and how this could be activated through words and thoughts. She thought about Thomas's story, and how, like him, she could begin to change her own life, not through physical effort, but by aligning her vibration with the frequency of abundance. Suddenly, he understood something deeper. Wealth wasn't just a matter of holding money. It was a matter of connecting with the universal flow, of knowing that abundance was available to everyone, but that only those who understood and aligned themselves with cosmic law could see it manifest in their lives. Sophia decided to put what she had learned into practice. At first, her words were timid, almost uncertain. She said softly, "I am in tune with infinite abundance." But as she did this, something inside her began to change. As she repeated the words, she felt a stronger vibration, as if a new level of consciousness were opening up to her. Over the days, her life began to transform. Opportunities, previously invisible, began to appear, and what seemed to be an ordinary common life began to be filled with surprises and blessings. Following the path the ancient masters had laid out, Sophia understood that true wealth was not just a matter of money, but of being in harmony with the flow of the universe. And so, she began to see her life not as a struggle, but as a natural process of receiving what the cosmos had to offer her. At that moment, Sophia understood that true prosperity was not just a desire, but a manifestation of universal law, and that the key to attracting it had always been within her. Sacred practice, connection with universal abundance. Wake up before the sun touches the horizon, when the veil between the tangible and spiritual worlds is at its thinnest. It is at that precise moment, when silence meets the stillness of the universe, that the doors of consciousness open and divine connection becomes possible. Facing the rising light, stand with your feet firmly on the ground. but with your mind open to the infinite possibilities of the cosmos. In that moment of stillness, filled with the peace that only the first rays of the sun can offer, speak these words with a heart full of certainty, as if each word were a seed that you sow in your being. I am one with the source of all abundance. Wealth flows to me through channels both expected and unexpected. I am blessed beyond measure, and my prosperity grows and expands with each dawn. Repeat it 7 times, not as a simple affirmation, but as a profound truth rising from the depths of your being. Each repetition should resonate in every fiber of your body, in every corner of your soul, feeling the truth of those words like a current that connects you to the very essence of the universe. The great masters of yesteryear understood a fundamental principle, that true abundance is not a destination, but a path of alignment with the universal frequency of prosperity. They knew that when this ritual is repeated with faith and perseverance, the mind and heart become attuned to that vibration of infinite abundance, transforming not only your perception of the world, but the very reality you create around you. The daily practice of this ritual is more than a physical act. It's a bridge between the material and the spiritual, a channel through which abundance flows to you. When you immerse yourself in this moment of connection, the universe begins to respond. The rising sun not only brightens the day, but also illuminates the inner truth that has always been with you, waiting for you to recognize it. Chapter 4. Unlocking Abundance Consciousness. On the shores of a quiet coastal town, where the salty sea breeze mingled with the sound of the waves, lived a man named Diego. His life was lived in the shadows of daily routine. Day after day, he sat in his carpentry workshop, the smell of fresh wood surrounding him as his hands worked skillfully. Yet, something inside him felt he wasn't living his true mission. Every nail he hammered, every board he cut, seemed to whisper, "This is all I am. This is all I have." He had convinced himself that his fate was sealed, and that the limitations he experienced were part of his life, as if they were unbreakable facts. However, the universe, as always, had other plans. Diego, like many of us, had fallen into the trap of conformity. He had resigned himself to what he saw as the reality of his life, unaware that the limits he thought he had existed only in the prison of his mind. But, as happens when we least expect it, something wonderful happened. One day, at the local market, he met a woman named Aurora. She was unlike any other person he had met in his life. Her presence radiated a profound calm and ancient wisdom. Aurora watched Diego as he worked on a chair he had created with his own hands. "What you've done here is admirable," he said with a calm smile. "Your skill with wood is undeniable. But I want you to know that, like wood, your mind can also be shaped. Just as you transform a piece of wood into a work of art, you can also transform your thoughts into abundance." These words were etched in Diego's mind. He had never heard anything like this before. Aurora, as if reading his thoughts, continued, "Your mind creates abundance in the same way your skill transforms wood into beautiful furniture. You have the power to create whatever you desire, but you must unlock that ability. Wealth is not a destination you reach, but a state of consciousness in which you live." At that moment, Diego realized that his life was tied to a flawed perspective. He had been seeking prosperity on the outside, in the circumstances around him, without realizing that true wealth came from a much deeper place, within. The change of perspective. What followed wasn't an immediate miracle, but a gradual process. Diego began to question his limiting beliefs. At first, with some skepticism, he began to think differently, to act as if prosperity were already present in his life. He began to tell himself, "I am worthy of receiving abundance. Wealth flows to me easily, because I have chosen it to." In just a few months, opportunities began to arrive. A client, who had never shown interest in his work, suddenly appeared looking for a unique piece of wood. Another, interested in his craftsmanship, offered him a long-term contract. Diego's workshop, which had previously seemed empty, began to fill with new ideas and projects. Business opportunities seemed to arrive out of nowhere, as if the forces of the universe were aligned in his favor. This change wasn't accidental. As Diego expanded his consciousness and began to think like a successful person, the universe responded to that vibration. Opportunities appeared where he hadn't seen them before. Connections strengthened, and suddenly, the life he had dreamed of began to take shape. The consciousness of abundance. Aurora explained that her mind was like an empty vessel, a glass. If her glass was filled with limiting thoughts, fears, and doubts, then she couldn't receive anything new. However, if she learned to expand that vessel, to open her mind and heart to infinite possibilities, then her capacity to receive abundance would also grow. The key was to expand her consciousness, to change her way of seeing the world and understanding her relationship with money and prosperity. Diego began to understand that wealth wasn't something to be pursued, but something to be attracted by changing his internal state of being. As his mind filled with positive thoughts and gratitude, his life began to reflect this new vibration. Sacred visualization, the image of prosperity. At dusk, as the sun began to set behind the hills and the sky turned golden, Diego found a quiet spot in the countryside. He sat quietly, letting the breeze caress his face, and began to breathe deeply. With each inhalation, he was filled with peace, and with each exhalation, he released the tensions and fears that still resided within him. He closed his eyes, and in his mind, visualized a golden mirror in front of him. This mirror didn't reflect his physical form, but his true essence. In that mirror, he saw a confident man, capable of making decisions with confidence, knowing that prosperity flowed to him effortlessly. He imagined himself receiving large amounts of money, not as a burden, but as a blessing that flowed naturally to him. He felt the ease with which he could give and receive money, without fear or worry. He experienced a sense of total freedom, free from the financial tensions that had previously plagued him. This vision became his new reality, an inner truth that he no longer questioned, but fully accepted. Imagine that, as you cross that golden mirror, you enter a space of pure, serene light, where the boundaries between the physical and divine selves dissolve. Here, there is no time or space as you know it. All is one. You feel yourself merging with that prosperous version of yourself, that version that already possesses everything it needs, that version that lives in harmony with the infinite abundance that belongs to it by divine right. This isn't a fantasy or a mere wish. It's a truth that already lives within you. As you integrate with this prosperous version, you feel a deep calm, a peace that comes from knowing that everything you've ever wanted is already available to you. Your mind, your heart, and your entire being resonate with this frequency of abundance. Like an instrument tuned in perfect harmony with the universe. Remain in this state. Feel how each breath connects you even more to this limitless energy of wealth, success, and prosperity. Feel every cell of your being fill with confidence, security, and gratitude for all you have already received and for all that is yet to come. Prosperity is not something to be sought, because it is already here, within you, waiting to be recognized. Remember, this visualization is not an exercise in anticipation, not an act of imagining something distant or future. It's an act of aligning yourself with what is already yours, with the abundance that has always belonged to you. By crossing the mirror, you unite with your true self, the self that lives in total prosperity. It's not an aspiration, it's a certainty. Stay a few more minutes in this feeling of total alignment, knowing that this state of consciousness grows stronger with each practice. You are reprogramming your being to live in the abundance that is your divine right. In the end, when you decide to leave this state, take that feeling of fulfillment and gratitude with you. Remember that by merging with your prosperous version, you have taken another step toward manifesting everything that already belongs to you. Chapter 5. The Silent Power of Belief and the Miracles of Abundance. In a small village surrounded by green meadows and distant mountains lay Augustus's workshop. It was a simple place, but brimming with an atmosphere of dedication and effort. From sunrise to the last glimmer of light, Augustus worked wood with precision and care. Every movement of his tool resembled a dance, and his hands, though calloused from years of hard work, seemed perfectly in tune with the noble material he molded. Augustus's belief was simple. Genuine effort always bore fruit, and there were no shortcuts in life. However, life has strange ways of teaching us its lessons. One day, while working on a particularly difficult piece, an elderly man, with eyes full of wisdom and the clothes of a wanderer who seemed to have traveled many roads, approached Augusto's workshop. His voice was deep and serene, like a distant echo from long-forgotten times. "My young friend," said the old man, "your work is admirable, but there is something greater than the hands that carve. There is something in the air, in thoughts, in beliefs that generates what you call effort. I have lived in distant lands, and I have known secrets that men of the material world do not understand. Abundance is not something to be sought. It is something that simply flows when one aligns oneself with pure belief." Augustus, who had been raised to believe that wealth only came to those willing to fight for it, chuckled softly. "Are you telling me that money, sustenance, prosperity, fall from the sky without effort? All of that sounds like pure fantasy." The old man smiled with a serenity that overflowed with understanding. "No, my son, do not misunderstand me. What I offer you is not magic. I am speaking to you of the universal law of creation. The universe responds to your expectations, not your efforts. If you believe that abundance is a result of your sweat, you will receive sweat. If you believe that abundance is a consequence of your faith in the process, you will receive abundance." With that, the old man walked away as silently as he had come, leaving Augustus in a sea of confused thoughts. At first, the old man's words seemed meaningless. How could something as intangible as faith be more important than hard work? However, over the next few weeks, something began to change in Augusto's workshop. One day, while he was carving a new piece of wood, a very wealthy merchant stopped by his workshop. He had heard rumors about Augustus's extraordinary ability to create furniture that was not only functional, but true works of art. The merchant, impressed by Augustus's craftsmanship, made him an offer that changed his life. On another occasion, an ancient chest, covered in dust and tangled in the shadows of the shed, was found in a corner of the workshop. Upon opening it, Augustus discovered rare woods of unsurpassed quality, woods that, according to experts, were only found in distant lands. Not only that, but he also discovered forgotten designs, revealed by an ancient scroll that had been part of a family heirloom. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, didn't need Augustus to prove his worth through endless efforts. It simply reflected what he truly believed. Augusto began to understand the lesson. Genuine work is valuable, but if it's not aligned with the deep belief that abundance is part of the natural order of the universe, efforts are like swimming against the current. The true key to attracting what you desire isn't tireless effort, but a firm belief in the abundance that surrounds you, an unwavering faith that the universe, when allowed, conspires in your favor. Just as the ancients knew that creation and manifestation are born from the mind, Augustus began to train his thinking and his belief. He no longer focused solely on what he could see with his physical eyes, but allowed himself to see with the eyes of his soul, knowing that abundance was not something to be achieved through endless struggles, but something that flowed through his being when he aligned himself with universal truth. Little by little, his workshop flourished. Opportunities seemed to arise out of nowhere, and the pieces he produced were not only appreciated, but also sought after by people who understood their value. People realized that what Augusto was doing wasn't simply crafted wood, but a manifestation of something larger: his faith, his belief, and his connection to the flow of life. And so, in the small town, Augustus learned that true wealth wasn't found in constant struggle, but in accepting what the universe had already prepared for him. Work, yes, was necessary, but so was the belief that everything he desired was already available to him, waiting to be claimed with an open mind and heart. The old man's lesson, though difficult to understand at first, had become the most powerful guide of his life. The universe responds to your expectations, and when those expectations are aligned with the natural flow of life, miracles, even financial ones, become an inevitable consequence. Daily sacred practice: the connection to divine prosperity. Get yourself a journal, one that glows with the promise of what's to come, and a gold pen that reflects the light of your highest intentions. At dawn, when the day is still imbued with the stillness of hope, open the pages of your journal. Morning is a sacred time to lay the groundwork for what the day will bring. On the left page, begin writing down the beliefs you hold about money today. Allow yourself to be honest and unreserved. What limiting thoughts arise when you think about prosperity? Perhaps you believe that money is scarce, or that wealth is only for a select few, or that you must constantly sacrifice to achieve material success. Write down all of these beliefs without judgment. Recognizing them is the first step toward transformation. When you're done, close your eyes for a moment and breathe deeply. Recognize that those beliefs are only thoughts that have had power over you until now, but they don't define your deepest truth. On the right page, transform each of those limitations into a powerful declaration of abundance. Do this with the authority of someone who has already claimed their divine right to prosperity. For example, if you ever thought, "Money is hard to come by," rewrite this belief as, "I am a natural channel for infinite abundance, and everything I need comes easily." If you ever thought, "I'll never have enough," change it to, "Abundance flows to me from all directions, and I always have more than enough for what I need." It's important that you don't write as someone who desires something, but as someone who has already received it. Speak from a place of certainty, as if you've already achieved what you desire. This is a declaration of power, not desire. Write with the firmness of a leader who knows their reality is being shaped by the words that flow from their soul. Once you've written your transformations, place your hand over the words and feel the energy emanating from them. Say each affirmation out loud with the clarity and conviction of someone who commands, not just desires. Repeat each affirmation 3 times with strength and certainty, knowing that by doing so, you are creating a new reality for yourself. Allow yourself to feel that your voice is that of a powerful being who is already receiving what they have requested. This is an ancient practice, a ritual that great sages have followed to align their consciousness with the frequency of wealth. The universe, in its infinite abundance, is waiting for your command. It is waiting to hear the authority in your voice and the conviction in your heart. You don't have to beg or wait. You just have to command with certainty what is yours by divine right. Remember, the universe responds to your vibration. When you speak with the power of certainty, you're not just affirming what you desire, but you're reminding the universe of your greatest truth. You are worthy of all the abundance the world has to offer. Chapter 6. Wealth is your divine right. In a small valley surrounded by majestic mountains, where the green hills caress the sky with their calm, a young apprentice named Gabriel spent his days beneath a centuries-old olive tree, which stood as a silent witness to the passage of time. His shoes, worn from constant work and long walks, and his patched clothes told the story of the hardships and struggles he had faced throughout his life. From a young age, Gabriel had been raised with the belief that prosperity was something reserved only for a fortunate few. He had been taught to work tirelessly, hoping that the sweat of his brow would grant him the reward he sought. But the rewards never came, at least not in the way he expected. Every evening, as the sun began to set behind the mountains, Gabriel sat under the olive tree and reflected on the words his teacher had told him. Wealth is a gift of the few, bestowed by fortune upon those born under a favorable star. Those words, so imbued with a seemingly unquestionable reality, always accompanied him. Gabriel believed in them with such devotion that he never thought to question them. But everything changed one morning. While Gabriel was gathering some dry branches in the nearby forest, he met an old man with a wrinkled face and eyes that reflected the wisdom accumulated over the years. The old man walked slowly, but his gaze held the certainty of someone who knows the purpose of each step. Unhurriedly, the old man approached Gabriel and, looking him in the eye, calmly said, "You must understand that the universe operates through abundance, not scarcity." Gabriel couldn't help but frown at such words. How can this be possible? He thought. Haven't I spent my entire life working hard to get what I need? The old man, noticing the confusion in his eyes, explained patiently, "The universe knows no bounds. Look up at the star-filled sky every night. Watch the leaves sprout effortlessly from the branches of the trees. Watch the river flow endlessly. Everything in nature is given without asking for anything in return. Scarcity is an illusion created by the human mind. It is a veil woven by generations of misunderstanding, hiding the infinite abundance that surrounds you. True prosperity flows like the air you breathe, boundless, free, and ready to be embraced by all." Those words touched a deep corner of Gabriel. For the first time, he began to question everything he'd ever believed about life and prosperity. Constant struggle didn't seem to be the only answer. Something deeper, something greater, seemed within reach. In the nearby village lived a woman named Elena. She was a teacher at the local school, known for her dedication to children, but also for her sense of inadequacy. She believed she was unworthy of the greatest gifts life could offer. Over the years, she had heard stories about people receiving unexpected blessings, but she had always convinced herself that those gifts would never come to her. One day, while teaching school, Elena overheard a conversation among some of her colleagues about the power of gratitude and opening up to the flow of abundance. For the first time, something resonated within her. She began to wonder if she truly believed the universe had something for her, or if she just thought she should settle for whatever life gave her without question. Elena decided to change her perspective. She began to see herself not as someone who had to fight for what she needed, but as someone worthy of receiving all the good things life had to offer. For weeks, she began practicing this new approach. First, her students' parents began giving her small thank you gifts. Then, Elena received news of an inheritance that a distant relative had left for her. And, as if it were part of a dream, soon after, a unique opportunity presented itself to open her own music school. A dream she had held in her heart for years. Elena, like Gabriel, discovered that the universe makes no distinctions between people. It has no favorites or limits what is available to a fortunate few. The real key is to align yourself with abundance, to open yourself to prosperity, and to declare yourself worthy of receiving it. Gabriel, deeply influenced by the old man's teachings, began to change his outlook on life. He no longer saw the world as a place of constant struggle. For the first time, he understood that prosperity was not something to be earned through physical effort, but something that was already part of his being. He began to believe that the universe owed him nothing, but that he was in the flow of divine abundance. A few months later, opportunities began to come to Gabriel unexpectedly. A man passing by his workshop noticed the extraordinary quality of his woodwork and offered to sell his furniture in his shop. Soon, Gabriel's name became known, and his life changed in ways he could never have imagined. Gabriel understood that wealth wasn't a matter of luck or being in the right place at the right time. Wealth, like everything in life, is about aligning with universal energy, accepting that we are already worthy of the goods and blessings the universe has to offer us. The universe is abundant and generous, and all it takes is opening your eyes and heart to receive what is already available. Like Gabriel and Elena, you too have the divine right to experience prosperity. The key is recognizing your worthiness to receive it and aligning yourself with the abundance that surrounds you. When you accept that prosperity is your divine right, you begin to see the world through new eyes, and everything that once seemed impossible begins to manifest before you. It's not an act of magic. It's a universal law, as precise as gravity, that responds to your belief in it. The universe gives back to you what you put out. This is how true abundance works. Sacred decree of prosperity. At dawn, when the light begins to gently caress the earth, stand in front of the mirror and place your hand over your heart. Feel its beat, deep and constant, like the echo of the abundance that already dwells within you. Speak these words with the firmness of one who knows their truth, with the authority of one who knows that their divine heritage is unshakable. I stay in the flow of infinite abundance. The universe has chosen me to thrive, flourish, and receive. Wealth flows to me naturally and easily, because I am one with the source of all prosperity. I accept my divine inheritance of abundance now, and so it is. Repeat this decree 3 times a day, at dawn, at noon, and at dusk. Let each word settle into your being like a seed planted in the fertile soil of your conscience. Let it resonate within you until the truth of what you say is felt in your bones, in the depths of your being. Remember that this is not a plea, nor an empty request addressed to the universe. It is not a distant or uncertain wish. It is a declaration of what already is, an affirmation of your divine right to abundance and prosperity. Just as the seed does not doubt its destiny to flourish, you should not doubt your own destiny to receive all that the universe has prepared for you. This is your sacred right, your eternal truth. The moment you declare it with full conviction, the universe will respond, for the flow of abundance is already within you, waiting to be claimed. And so it is. Chapter 7. Everything flows. In the heart of an ancient city, where the narrow, cobbled streets echoed with the footsteps of those seeking their fortune, Richard walked with his eyes fixed on his leather purse. He held it tightly to his chest, as if afraid the wind might blow it away. With trembling fingers, he counted over and over the coins he had accumulated with effort and sacrifice. Although his coffers were filled to the brim, his soul was empty. Fear constantly invaded him. He feared his wealth would vanish like water slipping through his fingers. Although his outward life reflected prosperity, his interior seemed like a barren and unforgiving desert. You must understand that money, in its deepest essence, is simply a reflection of the eternal exchange between giving and receiving. A wise man had once told him. Those words repeated themselves in his mind, over and over again, like a song he couldn't fully understand. Something in him resisted accepting that truth, for he saw wealth as something to be stored and protected, not something to flow freely. Every day at dawn, Richard watched from his window as a man named Sebastian, a merchant who lived across the street, performed a simple but powerful gesture. He generously shared his bread with passers-by. Often, those who received his generosity offered him grateful smiles, and some even silently blessed him. Meanwhile, Richard's business, despite his hard work and avarice, seemed to be slowly crumbling. Sales dwindled, and his efforts to increase his wealth only increased his anxiety. Sebastian, on the other hand, seemed to prosper more and more every day. Despite offering his bread without expecting anything in return, his shop was always full of customers, and his life seemed to be filled with light. Ricardo watched this in silence, confused, wondering how it could be that such a generous man had so much, while he, who struggled to accumulate, couldn't get ahead. It was then that he began to understand what the wise man had meant. The universe knows no scarcity, only circulation. Wealth isn't something to be accumulated and stored. It must flow, like a river that never stops, expanding and growing as it gives. Every time Richard saw Sebastian give away his bread, something inside him awakened, as if a spark of understanding illuminated his dark mind. The law of circulation was a universal law, as old as the universe itself. Observe nature, a river that only receives water from its tributaries, but never releases it, stagnates, losing its life force. The same thing happens with wealth. If one only takes and doesn't give, the flow is interrupted, and abundance stops flowing. As the days passed, Ricardo began to question himself. Why did he cling so tightly to what he had? Wasn't the universe generous to all? Wasn't abundance an inherent principle of life itself? It was then that a small but significant change began to take shape within him. He decided, for the first time in his life, to open himself to the idea of giving. One day, while walking through the plaza, he met a young man named Andres, a blind musician playing his guitar on a street corner. The melody his guitar emitted was deep and full of emotion, as if the notes expressed all the feelings Ricardo couldn't articulate. He felt an immediate connection with the music, and in that moment, he decided to do something he would never have considered before. He took a gold coin from his bag and, without further thought, placed it in Andres's bowl. The musician smiled gratefully, without saying a word. That simple gesture of generosity, though seemingly small, changed something in Ricardo's heart. He didn't expect anything in return, but something inside him lit up, as if the sun had begun to shine in a dark corner of his soul. That same afternoon, when he returned to his shop, he found a man in an elegant suit waiting for him. He was an art collector, known for his appreciation of the rarest and most valuable pieces. He had heard rumors about Ricardo's ability to source the finest items on the market, and after a brief conversation, he purchased one of the most valuable pieces in his inventory for a much higher sum than Ricardo had expected. Not only that, but the next day, other buyers arrived, attracted by the fame of his wares. Somehow, the generosity of that small gesture toward Andres had opened a channel for even greater prosperity. It wasn't just money that came to Ricardo, but a sense of peace and contentment he'd never experienced before. Something had changed in his perception of life. By giving, he had opened a flow of abundance he'd never imagined possible. Later, when a friend asked him why he had done something so unusual, Ricardo, with a knowing smile, spoke words that resonated in his heart. The universe never fails to fill an empty vessel that is freely offered. With those words, Richard understood the true nature of wealth. It is not about accumulating, but about allowing it to flow, about giving and receiving in perfect harmony. Every act of generosity is a seed that, when planted, bears multiplied fruit. The law of circulation is a sacred principle that governs not only money, but all of life. The wisdom of this principle has been passed down through the centuries. And although many try to hold on to what they have, the truth is that abundance only comes to those who trust in the flow of life. Every time we give, we open new doors, and that faith in the universe never goes unrequited. Ricardo, who had once feared losing his fortune, now understood that true wealth lay not in what he accumulated, but in what he was able to share. And so, life began to offer him much more than he ever imagined, in ways that weren't always material, but always profound and rewarding. Because by giving, we receive, and by allowing abundance to circulate, we align ourselves with the universal law that governs all things. Sacred Ritual of the Tithe. In the stillness of dawn, as the first light of day gently caresses the earth, take a tenth of your income, no matter how small. It may be a coin, a bill, or a modest sum, but the important thing is the act of generosity you perform. Place this portion of your abundance on a white cloth, a symbol of purity and connection to the divine. Feel the weight of the energy the money holds, and then press the coins or bills against your heart. Breathe deeply, centering your mind and spirit on the present moment. With a calm and faith-filled voice, say these words: I release this portion of my abundance back into the universal flow, knowing that it returns multiplied. As I give freely, I receive abundantly. This offering creates channels for infinite prosperity to flow into my life. I give with perfect faith. I receive with perfect gratitude. Allow these words to resonate within your being. Feel them deep within your heart, knowing that the universe, in its infinite wisdom, will recognize this act and respond with generosity. By giving, you align yourself with the divine flow that connects all beings. The act of giving is not only an act of material detachment, but an affirmation of your faith in the abundance that is always available to you. Then, give that portion of your abundance wherever you feel the Spirit's guidance. It doesn't matter if it's to a cause, a person in need, or even a foundation that resonates with your heart. The important thing is to do it with sincerity, without expectations or attachments. Your action is not an exchange, but a pure offering, an act of love toward the universe that has given you everything you have. Make this ritual a constant practice. Repeat this act of giving every time you receive, knowing that every tithe, no matter how small, is a seed planted in the garden of abundance. Don't look for immediate results. Simply trust. Over time, you will observe how new channels of prosperity open before you in unexpected but always perfect ways. Remember that tithing is not just a material practice, but a constant reminder that abundance is a flow, not a storehouse. When you give it, your heart opens, and the universe expands in reciprocity. Thus, as you give, more and more flows to you, multiplied, infinite, eternal. Chapter 8. The Emotional Magnetism of Money. In a forgotten corner of the city, where the bustle of daily life merged with the echo of hurried footsteps, a young man named Sebastian sat every afternoon with his violin, his fingers dancing over the strings, searching for a melody that would speak to the souls of passers-by. The notes that emerged from his instrument were soft and melancholic, reflecting the emptiness in his heart. Although his talent was evident, something was missing. Every time the sound of music filled the air, his thoughts filled with anxiety. The worry of not being able to scrape together enough money to pay the rent haunted him, and as if the universe responded to his fear, the coins fell less frequently into his worn case. One night, while Sebastian was playing under the dim light of a street lamp, an unusual scene made him stop. Across the plaza, a plain-looking man named Julian began to dance with such overwhelming energy that everything around him seemed to stand still. His movements were uncoordinated, but filled with contagious joy, a happiness that radiated from his very being. Pedestrians stopped, smiled, and without thinking, began to place coins and bills in Julian's hat. Sebastian watched, amazed, as Julian's hat overflowed with money, not because his dancing was perfect, but because the vibration of his joy was magnetic, almost irresistible. It was at that moment that Sebastian understood something fundamental, something that would change his perspective on money forever. Money, he thought, responds to the energy you emanate. It's like the sun, which effortlessly radiates light, attracting everything that needs its warmth. Money, similarly, responds to the emotional frequencies of those who attract it, and those frequencies are as secure as the flower that always turns toward the sunlight. Money is not just a coin, a bill, a tangible object. It is energy in motion, seeking places where it can be nourished and multiply. Sebastian remembered his own fears, the anxiety he felt whenever he worried about his future. He had been trying to attract prosperity, but everything he did seemed marked by desperation, as if money rejected him because he himself rejected it, wrapped in anxiety and fear. In that moment, he realized he had been pursuing money from a place of scarcity, not abundance. He had seen finances as something he must obtain, something he must fight to achieve. But the true flow of abundance, he thought, cannot be forced. It only flows with those who align themselves with the light, with joy, with certainty. That night, Sebastian decided to change his focus. Every morning when he woke up, he began to give thanks for everything he possessed, for the violin he owned, for the melody he could offer the world, even for the coins in his pocket. Instead of thinking about what he didn't have, he focused on what was already present in his life. He appreciated every little detail, from the air he breathed to the sound of his own melodies, which became a song of gratitude. As the days passed, something began to change. People passing by his corner stopped more often, drawn by the serenity of his music, which was now imbued with a new energy. Coins began to fall more frequently, but the most surprising thing happened when a businessman approached him, impressed by his talent, and offered to collaborate with him to organize private concerts. From that moment on, new opportunities began to arise effortlessly. Checks began to arrive, invitations to events multiplied, and the rent that had previously seemed a burden was paid without difficulty. But the real transformation happened within Sebastian. As he began to see money as an extension of the joy emanating from his being, his vibration shifted. The universe responded not only with material abundance, but with an inner serenity he had never known. He no longer felt the need to fight for what he needed, because he had understood that money, like any other energy in the universe, flows toward where there is peace, light, and trust. Like Julian, who danced without worries, Sebastian understood that the key wasn't to fight for what he wanted, but to align himself with the energy of abundance, flowing with it. Money is like music, he thought. You don't need to cling to it or fear losing it. You just need to let it flow, so that, like a melody, it returns to you in the most perfect and natural way. Over time, Sebastian became a man filled with peace and prosperity. His violin was no longer just an instrument of expression, but a tool for vibrating at the frequency of abundance. The plaza, once the place of his worries, became the stage of his joy, where each note he played attracted more and more people who, like the sun, sought the light he emanated. Wealth, both material and spiritual, came into his life as naturally as the sun rises every morning. Thus, Sebastian learned one of life's most valuable lessons. The emotional magnetism of money is not found in need, but in the vibration of gratitude, joy, and trust. Money, like everything in life, responds to who we are and how we feel. When we align ourselves with our own light, the universe responds with generosity, and abundance flows to us effortlessly. Gratitude magnetization. Practice. Find a serene space, a corner where the silence of the morning or the gentle murmur of the evening envelops your being. Sit comfortably, breathe deeply, and feel the tranquil energy surrounding you. Take any coin, bill, or token of exchange you choose in your hands, and with your eyes closed, allow yourself to experience a deep sense of gratitude. Let that emotion grow in your heart, as pure as a crystal-clear river that flows effortlessly. Let gratitude become the center of your being, connecting you with the abundance already present in your life. And, with all your energy, say these words: I lift my heart in gratitude for the constant flow of wealth in my life. Every coin, every bill, is a friend who brings with it more friends. Money responds to the joy within me, and I receive each of its gifts with love and gratitude. I deeply appreciate what I have, and this gratefulness attracts even more blessings and abundance. The universe celebrates my prosperity, and I allow myself to be enveloped by the magnificence of receiving it. Allow yourself to remain in that state of pure gratitude, immersed in the positive vibration you have created. Visualize every transaction you make during the day, every exchange, every purchase or sale, enveloped in this luminous energy of appreciation. Imagine that every financial act is an opportunity to expand your abundance, as if the universe itself were smiling and acknowledging your joy. Remember that by practicing this magnetization, you are not only giving intention to money, but also transforming your relationship with it. Money is an energy, a reflection of universal abundance, and by receiving it with gratitude, you align yourself with its natural flow. With each moment of gratitude, you become a magnet of prosperity, inviting more blessings into your life. Let this ritual become a daily habit, a constant reminder of the abundance that surrounds you, and the deep connection between giving and receiving. Thus, as you dedicate yourself to this practice, you will discover that wealth is not only measured by what you have, but by how you appreciate everything that comes to you. Chapter 9. Breaking the Chains of Inherited Scarcity. In a picturesque village nestled among green mountains, Esteban worked in the fields with his father. The sun fell gently on their backs as their hands moved through the earth with the same daily routine that had marked generations of his family. Money is a luxury, not for people like us, Esteban thought, hearing once again the words his father had repeated throughout his life. Wealth is a distant dream, a struggle never won by those who are unlucky. These phrases, passed down through each generation in his family, had sunk so deeply into his mind that he could no longer imagine a different reality. They were like paths marked in the earth, so deep that any attempt to break away from them seemed impossible. This story of scarcity was not only his family's, but that of many others, like a shadow that stretches unseen, but is felt with every step. And so, like thousands before him, Esteban believed he was incapable of transcending those patterns, those inherited beliefs that limited his life. Those voices whispered in his mind every chance he got. We weren't born to have money, or wealth always slips through the hands of the humble. A life of struggle was what he knew, what he'd been taught to accept as his destiny. However, one day, something happened that would change his perspective. On a dusty road, where he used to walk to the market, Stephen found an old man sitting under a tree. This man, with a deep gaze and calm serenity, offered him a kind smile and, without saying a word, asked, "What do you really believe about money, young Esteban?" The question surprised him, for he had never questioned what he had learned from his family. And yet, something in the old man's voice made him feel that the answer lay not in what he had been taught, but in what he could still learn. So, with a mixture of disbelief and curiosity, Stephen explained his thoughts on wealth. The old man looked at him fixedly and said calmly, "Your ancestors' struggles were real, but their beliefs about money don't have to be your inheritance. What you believe is only part of the story. You can free yourself from those invisible chains that bind you." These words resonated deeply within him. Esteban felt as if an invisible weight had been lifted from his soul. He realized that his subconscious had unquestioningly accepted the beliefs of past generations. Every failure, every fear, every limitation had been ingrained within him as absolute truth. But the old man showed him that these patterns, seemingly unbreakable, only persisted through unconscious acceptance. And if he chose to break free, he could rewrite his history. That night, Esteban sat thoughtfully under the starry sky, questioning for the first time what he had taken for granted. He realized that it wasn't just him who carried those limiting beliefs, but that, like his mother before him, his life reflected the constant struggle against the invisible barriers of scarcity. His mother, despite her hard work, had never had the same opportunities Esteban had now. Somehow, he felt he wasn't alone on this path, that echoes of the past were speaking to him. but that he could choose to listen or change them. The next day, in his small shed, Stephen sat quietly and began to meditate, allowing his thoughts to flow without judgment. He remembered the old man's words and realized what had been happening in his life. Money is slipping through our fingers. We must work twice as hard to earn half as much. Wealth brings misfortune. These were beliefs that didn't belong to him, but had been inherited, and that only existed because he had accepted them without question. With each breath, he began to release these beliefs, to let go of what no longer served him. He felt his heart open, and the energy of the universe begin to flow into him. It wasn't a simple act of resignation, but of liberation. He accepted that, by letting go of his inherited fears, he would open up space for new opportunities, for a different life, unbound by the invisible chains of scarcity. From that moment on, everything began to change. Opportunities that had previously seemed out of reach began to arrive. A client who had been interested in his products called him again, and this time, the transaction was more successful than before. He began to feel a new energy in his work, an enthusiasm he had never known before. And although the difficulties remained, he now saw them as challenges, not insurmountable barriers. As Esteban continued to question his inherited beliefs about money, his financial life began to change. The blocks that had previously held him back began to crumble. He discovered that wealth wasn't something reserved for others, nor something he had to tirelessly pursue. Wealth was a natural flow that surrounded him, and he only had to allow it into his life. Finally, Esteban realized that by breaking free from the limiting beliefs that had been imposed on him, he had unleashed his true capacity to create abundance in his life. He was no longer a prisoner of his ancestral history, but the creator of his own destiny. The old man, who disappeared as mysteriously as he had arrived, left a profound mark on his life. And every time Esteban felt tempted to fall back into old patterns, he remembered his words and was reaffirmed by his new truth. Your inheritance is not in the struggles of the past, but in the freedom you choose to create. Thus, Stephen broke the chains of inherited scarcity, and in doing so, opened the doors to an abundance that had always been waiting in his heart, and that only needed to be acknowledged. Sacred practice to release. Ancestral patterns. Find a quiet place where you can be completely at peace. Sit with your back straight, your eyes closed, and your hands resting gently on your legs. Breathe deeply, feeling the air fill your being and calm your mind. As you breathe, allow your body to completely relax, releasing any tension. Imagine you're standing in a vast room surrounded by mirrors. Each mirror reflects a different generation of your family, from your earliest ancestors to the present. Observe each reflection carefully and how the patterns of scarcity that have been passed down from generation to generation resonate. Feel the density of these patterns and how each one seems to carry a burden of struggle and limitation. Now, with each breath, allow those reflections to slowly fade away. Imagine how the mirrors begin to blur, their images losing clarity. The patterns of scarcity that once seemed so firm now begin to disintegrate and fade away, freeing up space for something new. In this moment of transformation, speak these words of power, with the deep intention of freeing yourself from what no longer serves you. I honor those who came before me and the struggles they faced with money. But now, I choose to write a new story. I release all inherited patterns of lack. I am free to create prosperity beyond what my ancestors imagined. Their limitations end with me. I reclaim my divine right to abundance, here and now. Feel each word resonate within your being, releasing the invisible chains that have bound you to limiting beliefs about abundance. As you repeat these words, observe how the reflections in the mirrors transform. A golden light begins to fill each one, shining brightly and enveloping all your ancestors in a luminous energy of love, gratitude, and abundance. This golden light dissolves old limitations and fills the reflections with prosperity, changing patterns of scarcity into opportunities for abundance. With each breath, feel this golden light flowing into you, into your heart, and expanding throughout your entire being. Feel the power of transformation and liberation. This light not only heals past generations, but also opens a new path for you and all who will come after you. Allow yourself to remain in this space of gratitude and abundance for as long as you need. When you feel ready, breathe deeply once more, feeling the new energy flow into your being, and open your eyes, carrying with you the certainty that you have released the old patterns and are now a channel for abundance in all its forms. Remember that this practice is a constant reminder that your divine right to prosperity is in your hands, and that, through your conscious choice, you can create a legacy of abundance that not only honors your ancestors, but also transforms the future. Chapter 10. The Secret Abundance Frequency Exercise. In a small square in a secluded village, beneath the warm afternoon sun, Avelina watched intently as the merchants offered their wares. Around her, the bustle of the market was an ancient chant, a rhythm that seemed to fill the air with vibrant energy. Some of the merchants seemed to receive customers with ease, their eyes shining with satisfaction as they exchanged goods and coins, as if abundance would naturally follow. Others, however, seemed to constantly struggle for each sale, their hands trembling and their eyes weary, as if the wind of fortune never blew in their favor. Avelina knew something deeper was happening. Wealth, she understood, wasn't the result of endless effort, nor the consequence of luck. No, wealth was a frequency, a vibration that could be felt in the air, like a subtle melody that some knew how to hear, while others, no matter how hard they tried, couldn't tune in. He remembered his grandmother's words, which she had told him in his youth. Abundance does not come to those who frantically seek it, but to those who learn to dance with it. These words, which at the time had seemed like mere wise advice, now resonated in his heart with unexpected clarity. Shortly after, Avelina met Manuel, a wise old man from the village, known for his ability to find opportunities in the most unexpected moments. He owned a shop that seemed to flourish in times of crisis, and he was always surrounded by a calm and radiant energy. Avelina, curious, asked him one day what his secret was. Manuel smiled, letting out a light laugh, as if he'd been expecting that question for years. Wealth, dear child, isn't something you pursue. It's something you allow, something you invite. When you align yourself with the right frequency, everything you need comes to you effortlessly. Like flowers opening in the sun, abundance opens to those who resonate with it. Avelina, still in disbelief, began to reflect on those words. She decided to follow Manuel's advice, although at first she struggled to understand how to do so. She began to observe her own thoughts and emotions more closely. Instead of lamenting the financial difficulties she faced, she decided to practice gratitude for what she already had. Instead of focusing on what she lacked, she began to appreciate every little detail of her life. The warmth of the sun on her face, the laughter of the children at the market, the fresh air that filled her lungs. As the days passed, Avelina felt something begin to change within her. Her outlook on life began to transform. The anxiety that had previously dominated her mind disappeared, replaced by an inner peace she had never experienced before. Somehow, the circumstances around her began to adjust as well. People who had previously been uninterested in her products began to approach her stand, drawn by her new energy. Opportunities seemed to arise out of nowhere, as if the universe itself were conspiring in her favor. Meanwhile, in a distant city, Hugo, a young poet struggling to find his place in the world, was experiencing something similar. Hugo had spent years searching for the key to success in his career. He had exhausted himself chasing fame and fortune, achieving nothing. His days were filled with uncertainty and despair. One day, while leafing through an old book in his mother's library, he found a page that talked about something called vibrational frequency. "Those who seek wealth through constant effort," Hugo read, "will never find it, because they are not aligned with their true nature." Wealth, like love, must be attracted to those who are willing to open their hearts and resonate with its frequency. Hugo, intrigued by those words, decided to put an alignment exercise into practice. Every day, instead of focusing on the scarcity he felt, he began to meditate on the abundance that already existed around him. He began to visualize his life filled with opportunities and boundless creativity. His mind, instead of resisting prosperity, began to open to it with faith. Within a few weeks, Hugo noticed something mysterious happening. His poetry began to be recognized, his works were published, and his name began to be heard in literary circles that had previously seemed unattainable. Wealth, he understood, was not only material, but also spiritual, emotional, and intellectual. He had attuned himself to the vibration of what he desired to receive, and somehow the universe responded. Avelina and Hugo never met, but their stories intertwined in a way only the universe could orchestrate. They both discovered that the key to attracting abundance lay not in exhausting effort or a desperate pursuit of wealth, but in aligning with the frequency of wealth. Money, love, creativity, peace, all of these flow when we open ourselves to the right vibration. The wise old Manuel was right. Abundance comes to those who learn to dance with life, to those who stop chasing it and begin to align themselves with its rhythm. So, Avelina and Hugo continued on their paths, aware that true wealth is not found in the chase, but in tuning into the natural flow of the universe. Abundance frequency alignment. Exercise. To practice this exercise, take a moment to be quiet and at peace. Sit in a comfortable place, close your eyes, and breathe deeply. Feel your body relax with each inhalation. Imagine your mind is a radio, and that, in this moment, you are going to tune it to the frequency of abundance. Visualize the golden light of prosperity filling your being, from the crown of your head to your toes. Feel this light flowing through you, dispelling any fears or limiting beliefs you may have about wealth. Open your heart and mind, allowing abundance to become a natural part of your life. Say out loud or in your mind the following words, with full awareness and faith. I am aligned with the frequency of abundance. I let go of limiting beliefs that prevent me from receiving. Wealth flows to me with ease and grace. I gratefully receive what the universe offers me. I am open to all forms of prosperity. Stay in this meditation for as long as you need, allowing the energy of abundance to take root within you. Each time you repeat this exercise, you'll feel yourself getting closer to the frequency of wealth, and the universe will begin to respond to your openness. Remember, as Manuel said, wealth does not come to those who seek it, but to those who align themselves with it. Activation of the wealth frequency. Find a quiet place where you can be at peace, uninterrupted. Sit in a comfortable position with your hands on your heart center, right in the center of your chest. Gently close your eyes and take a deep breath, feeling the air fill your lungs and expand your being. With each exhalation, release any tension or worries you may be carrying. Allow yourself to be present in this moment, here and now. When you feel ready, say the following words with complete certainty and authority, knowing that by pronouncing each syllable, you activate the vibration you wish to attract. I am now in perfect alignment with the frequency of unlimited wealth. Every cell of my being vibrates in harmony with abundance. Money flows to me easily, naturally, and in perfect divine timing. I don't need to chase or struggle. I simply tune in and receive. The frequency of wealth flows through me now, activating my natural state of prosperity. As you repeat these words, feel every cell in your body respond. Imagine a warm, golden energy enveloping your being, activating a vibration of prosperity that begins to resonate within you. Visualize your entire being, your energy field, becoming attuned to the abundance that already exists in the universe, and how this energy flows toward you with ease. Remain in this state for several minutes. You can feel your energy shifting, expanding, and aligning with the frequency of wealth. Breathe deeply and notice any blockages or resistances that arise. Simply acknowledge them and allow them to dissolve into the golden light of abundance. It's important to practice this alignment 3 times a day, upon waking, at midday, and before bed. With each practice, allow the feeling of abundance to permeate more deeply into your being. At first, it may be subtle, but over time, you'll notice how the flow of opportunities and resources begins to come to you in unexpected ways. Remember, the universe doesn't respond to your empty words, but to the resonance you establish through this practice. What truly matters is your internal alignment, your ability to tune into the frequency of abundance, and your willingness to receive. The more you practice, the easier it will be for you to be in this vibration and attract everything you need with grace and ease. Wealth isn't something you should chase. It's a state of being that's available to you whenever you choose to align yourself with it. In doing so, it becomes a natural extension of your life, flowing freely to you, effortlessly, without struggle, simply by knowing that you are already worthy of all the abundance the universe has to offer. At the end of each session, thank your being for allowing this activation and for opening the channels of prosperity. Trust that the process is taking place, and that each day you are getting closer to living in the frequency of unlimited wealth. Chapter 11. The Invisible Path of Abundance. In the quietest hours of the morning, Matthias remained behind the counter of his small business. His hands rested on the old wood, worn by the years, but his mind wandered among the shadows of uncertainty. The pile of debt crept in, like a rising wave ready to sweep him away. For a long time, he had thought his destiny was set in stone, that his life could offer him no more than what he already possessed. However, that night, a mysterious visitor would change his way of seeing the world. The stranger crossed the threshold with the calmness of someone who has traveled countless paths. Despite his simple clothes, he emanated an aura of certainty and prosperity. His eyes, as deep as the horizon, rested on Matthias with a mixture of compassion and certainty. "You only perceive what your eyes show you," the stranger said, his voice calm. "But abundance isn't just what you touch, but what you feel, what you believe, what you summon." Matthias frowned. "Money is tangible," he protested. "It's hard-earned and easy to lose." The stranger smiled softly. "The universe isn't governed only by visible laws. Reality responds to those who know how to look beyond. Look at the stars. They appear fixed, but in reality, they travel through the cosmos. Likewise, wealth isn't static, but an energy in constant motion, waiting for someone to call it into their lives." Matthias felt a spark ignite inside him. For days, he meditated on those words. He began to imagine his business not as a simple store, but as a bridge to something bigger. He decided to change his attitude. Instead of complaining about his debts, he began to welcome each day with gratitude, convinced that abundance was on the way. Meanwhile, in the town square, Lucia, a modest embroiderer, also discovered the magic of perception. For years, she had worked in a small workshop, watching her days pass between threads and needles. But one morning, she decided to see herself not as a simple artisan, but as a creator of beauty. She began to embroider with passion, imagining that each stitch wove a destiny of abundance. Changes were not long in coming. A wealthy merchant, enchanted by the perfection of her work, commissioned a complete collection of garments. Shortly after, a traveler recommended her to the royal court. Without realizing it, Lucia had stopped viewing her workshop as a place of limitation and had transformed it into a gateway to prosperity. Matthias and Lucia understood that true wealth wasn't just money, but the conviction that the universe always listens to those who believe in their own light. Abundance, they understood, isn't a goal to be reached, but a path to be followed with faith in the invisible. The ritual of infinite prosperity. Find a place of calm, where the outside world is suspended and only your breathing sets the rhythm of the present moment. Sit with your back straight and close your eyes. Breathe deeply, allowing the air to purify every corner of your being. As you exhale, feel all doubt, fear, and lack dissolve like mist at dawn. Now imagine a sphere of golden light enveloping you. It is a warm glow, a living energy that pulsates in harmony with the heartbeat of the universe. Within it, everything is possible. In this moment, you leave behind the limitations of time and space, becoming pure consciousness, a traveler on the path of abundance. With a firm voice and an open heart, he says, "I fully enter the dimension of infinite prosperity. I release all ties to scarcity and fear. My being vibrates at the highest frequency of wealth. I am a channel of unlimited potential, allowing abundance to flow into my life. Everything I long for already exists in the fabric of the universe, and I gratefully welcome it now." Remain in this state for several minutes. Feel each word expand within you, like seeds germinating in fertile soil. In this sacred space, you begin to exist in multiple dimensions of prosperity, allowing your reality to reorder itself to reflect the truth of your essence. You are abundance in motion. Chapter 12. The Art of Receiving Without a Fight. You are about to cross an invisible threshold, one that separates the world of constant struggle from the realm where abundance flows naturally. This is a truth that has remained hidden from many, but those who have discovered it have transformed their lives forever. The story of Eduardo, a humble carpenter, reflects the journey of those who have believed that wealth can only be achieved through sacrifice and hardship. In a small town with dusty streets and grueling days, Eduardo dedicated his days to work, convinced that success depended solely on effort. From dawn to dusk, his hands carved wood with patience and sweat. But at the end of the day, his pocket barely contained enough to feed his family. His heart beat with the desire for a better life, but his mind was trapped in a cycle of lack and fatigue. One afternoon, exhausted after another endless day, Eduardo stopped in the town square, where a serene-looking old man was meditating under the shade of a leafy tree. Despite his simple clothing, the old man exuded a tranquility that spoke of a different kind of wealth, one that didn't depend on gold or material possessions. Without looking up, the old man spoke, as if he had heard Edward's thoughts. "You've believed that wealth is the result of extreme effort, but in reality, it's the fruit of harmony. The universe doesn't reward struggle, but rather harmony with its principles. A river flows effortlessly when its channel is free of obstructions. Likewise, prosperity comes to those who learn to align their thoughts, emotions, and actions with its natural flow." Eduardo felt a shudder inside him. For days, he pondered those words. Little by little, he began to see his work not as a burden, but as an expression of his artistry. Instead of worrying about scarcity, he began to visualize his carpentry shop as a space where creativity and abundance manifested freely. The change was subtle at first, but soon clients with special orders began arriving, people who valued her work and were willing to pay generously for it. Her perception had changed, and with it, her reality was transformed as well. The old man was right. Wealth isn't achieved through struggle, but through alignment. And when one learns to receive without resistance, the universe opens its doors wide, the invisible architecture of abundance. Your thoughts are the architectural blueprints of your destiny, your emotions the fire that gives them life, and your actions the ultimate confirmation of your faith in your chosen path. Without this harmony, creation remains incomplete, and wealth remains only a distant possibility. Many yearn for prosperity, but while their minds dream of abundance, their hearts are trapped in fear. Others, for brief moments, manage to experience the feeling of having it all, but their actions are guided by mistrust. This contradiction is like rowing in three different directions. The boat remains motionless, no matter how hard the navigator tries. Joaquin, an artisan who had dedicated his life to ceramics, lived trapped in this dilemma. His hands created beauty, but his spirit was burdened with doubt. He worked day and night, believing that only extreme effort could lead him to stability. However, fortune seemed elusive, and every time an opportunity arose, uncertainty sabotaged him. One day, an old traveler came to his workshop and, observing his work, said to him, "Your art reflects the struggle you're caught in. Your thoughts shape the clay, but your emotions break it before it can solidify. To transform your reality, you must find the perfect alignment between what you think, what you feel, and what you do." That night, Joaquin meditated on the old man's words and decided to change his approach. Instead of seeing his work as a struggle, he began to view it as a natural expression of abundance. He learned to trust that his art was already valuable, without needing to worry about every sale. Little by little, his transformation became evident. He thought about wealth clearly and without doubt. He felt the certainty of prosperity flowing through every piece he created. He acted with conviction, unafraid of scarcity. In a matter of weeks, everything changed. Merchants from distant lands discovered his work. A nobleman commissioned an exclusive collection, and wealth flowed to him in unexpected ways. He hadn't performed magic. He had simply learned the art of inner harmony. Because when thought, emotion, and action move in the same direction, the universe has no choice but to open its doors. Sacred balance. Ritual. Find a space where serenity reigns, where the murmur of the outside world doesn't disturb your inner connection. Close your eyes and place both hands on your chest, feeling the heartbeat that marks the rhythm of your existence. Align your mind. Imagine abundance as a mighty river flowing effortlessly toward you. It's not a distant mirage, but a palpable reality that already belongs to you. Visualize the morning gold reflected in the water, the sound of prosperity whispering in the breeze. Let your heart be filled with the certainty of having received what you long for. Don't wait for it in the future. Live it in the now. Allow gratitude to expand into every corner of your being, dispelling any shadow of doubt. Feel the joy of fulfillment, the security of one who has already reached their destiny. Allow your body to respond in harmony with this new truth. You may extend your hands to receive the gift of the universe, bow your head in acceptance, or move with the lightness of one dancing with existence. Each gesture is an indelible mark on the reality you are creating. Stay in this state as long as you feel necessary, knowing that the universe has already heard your call and has begun to weave the threads of your new story. Chapter 13. The Silent Language of Abundance. Throughout the centuries, those who have understood the mysteries of prosperity have left subtle traces, invisible impressions that others can follow. It's not about material possessions or ostentatious displays of wealth, but something deeper, a vibrational signature, an essence that surrounds them and announces their prosperity before they even speak. In a city surrounded by sun-gilded hills, Emilia spent her days in her small spice shop, watching the people coming and going. From her corner scented with cinnamon and saffron, she marveled at those customers who seemed to move with unusual lightness, as if the weight of uncertainty never touched them. They didn't always wear luxurious clothes or flaunt glittering jewelry, but their eyes burned with a calm flame, an unshakable certainty. One day, Emilia noticed a man with a firm gait and serene gaze enter her shop. He wasn't a nobleman, nor a renowned merchant, but there was something about him that inspired respect. His gestures were measured and measured. He chose his spices carefully, and when she asked the price of the most expensive saffron, he didn't frown or calculate the loss. He simply nodded with a smile and paid leisurely. The scene remained etched in Emilia's mind. For days, she began studying those who seemed to effortlessly attract prosperity. There was a woman who sold fine fabrics at the market and never discussed the price of her creations. If a customer hesitated, she would smile calmly and say, "If it's for you, you'll know." She never negotiated out of fear of losing a sale. There was a fisherman who, even on days when the waters seemed squalid, never complained. "The sea gives to each his fair share," he said confidently, and somehow he always came back with enough to share. What Emilia discovered was revealing. The prosperous didn't talk about scarcity. When conversations turned to crises or economic hardship, they simply remained silent or skillfully changed the subject. They didn't deny reality, but they didn't allow themselves to vibrate on its frequency either. They didn't treat money as a capricious god who granted favors unpredictably, nor did they fear or worship it. To them, it was a loyal friend, not a harsh master. More than any financial strategy, what truly distinguished them was their relationship with time. They never chased opportunities for fear they would disappear. They didn't fear lack or loss. They moved with the confidence of those who know that abundance will always find its way back to them. The art of vibrating in prosperity. Intrigued, Emilia decided to adopt these qualities. He straightened his posture when speaking to customers. He softened his tone of voice, giving it a note of certainty and peace. He stopped justifying the prices of his spices, and when anyone hesitated, he simply said, "Whoever values their flavor needs no explanation." When someone spoke of difficult times, he would respond with a smile. Seasons change. The earth continues to bear fruit. At first, the change was so subtle that he barely noticed it, but little by little, the world began to respond differently. Customers treated her with more respect. They stopped to listen to her suggestions. A merchant from a distant land asked her to prepare a special blend for his family, offering her more than she expected. Later, a court cook tasted her spices and was so delighted that he recommended her to the nobility. In a matter of weeks, Emilia went from being a mere market vendor to a supplier of those who vibrated in abundance. And he understood, with absolute clarity, that prosperity isn't something you pursue, it's something you embody. Practice. The mirror of abundance. The world is a reflection of our own vibration. What we observe in others is merely an echo of what we can awaken within ourselves. To tune into the frequency of prosperity, you must first recognize its signals and then allow its essence to flow through you. Step 1. Conscious observation. Take your journal and divide it into 2 columns. In the first, write down every phrase, gesture, or habit you observe in people who seem to naturally attract wealth. In the second, write down how you can incorporate those same qualities into your life. It's not just what they say, but how they say it. Not just what they do, but the energy with which they do it. Step 2. The incarnation of abundance. For 7 days, commit to embodying these patterns. It can be something as simple as improving your walking posture, speaking with confidence, being grateful for every coin that passes through your hands, or stopping engaging in scarcity-related conversations. If you notice that prosperous people never rush, let calm guide your movements. If you find that they are speaking with certainty about the future, change your words from, "I hope it happens," to, "I'm sure it will manifest." If you notice that they treat money with respect and gratitude, do the same every time you receive or spend a coin. Step 3. The change in the mirror of the world. As these new habits become second nature, watch the world begin to respond differently. Opportunities seem to appear more easily. People begin to treat you with more respect and trust. Money flows more naturally, as if it's been waiting for you to align with its frequency. Remember, this isn't a simple imitation. It's an internal transformation. When you vibrate in the consciousness of wealth, you become a natural magnet for its manifestation. Abundance is already part of you. You just need to remember it. Chapter 14. The Sacred Rituals of Abundance of the Ancients. Throughout the ages, practices to attract prosperity have been preserved in ancient manuscripts and oral traditions. You are about to discover hidden wisdom with the power to rewrite your financial destiny. On the dusty shelves of a forgotten library, ancient texts revealed secrets that would forever transform our understanding of the connection between the spiritual and the material. These writings spoke of civilizations that flourished not only through effort, but through sacred rituals that aligned them with the abundance of the universe. Egyptian priests would rise before dawn, facing the rising sun, chanting sacred sounds that resonated with the frequency of gold. Tibetan monks performed precise mudras, hand gestures, to open channels through which wealth flowed. Greek oracles employed specific breathing patterns combined with prosperity declarations that materialized riches for those who sought their guidance. These were not mere ceremonial. They were advanced energy technologies designed to attune the practitioner to specific prosperity frequencies. Every civilization understood that wealth exists first in the invisible realms before materializing on the physical plane. Today, these practices have been forgotten, buried under centuries of materialistic thinking. However, those who rediscover and apply them often experience radical changes in their financial reality. An entrepreneur who adopted the Egyptian sunrise ritual saw his company's profits triple in months. A teacher who practiced Tibetan wealth mudras received 3 unexpected inheritances. The power of these practices lies not in their complexity, but in their ability to harmonize your energy with the natural abundance of the cosmos. They create a bridge between the spiritual and material realms, opening channels through which prosperity can flow. Sacred Invocation of Abundance. At dawn, find a quiet place facing east. Join your hands in prayer position at the level of your heart. Take 3 deep breaths. Then slowly raise your arms above your head, forming a triangle with your hands. Visualize a golden light pouring through this triangle, filling your entire being. Pronounce with unwavering conviction, "By the ancient laws of abundance, I summon the wealth that is my divine inheritance. Just as the sun rises, my prosperity ascends. What was hidden now flows freely. What was blocked now moves with ease. I am one with the eternal source of all opulence, and so it is." Slowly lower your arms, bringing the golden light toward your heart. Remain silent for several minutes, allowing the energy to integrate. Perform this ritual daily for 40 days without interruption. This practice, drawn from multiple ancient traditions, generates a powerful resonance with universal abundance. It's not the words themselves that hold the power, but rather the focused intention and unwavering faith with which the ritual is performed. Chapter 15. The 30-Day Challenge to Tune into the Prosperity Frequency. In a vibrant city square, filled with stalls offering everything from fresh fruit to unique handicrafts, Esteban gazed at his sculptures with awe he couldn't hide. He had worked tirelessly for years, but something had changed in his life. The art that had once seemed like a hobby was now fetching prices he'd never dreamed of. Prosperity flowed to him in ways he'd never imagined. Yet, despite his success, a shadow lingered in his mind: the fear of losing everything. This invisible but tangible fear is one of the greatest obstacles faced by those who have achieved abundance. It's a force that infiltrates the heart, a constant reminder that everything could vanish in an instant. Esteban felt it often, especially when he saw how others, even with much less effort, seemed to have it all. There was a part of him that couldn't stop questioning. What if one day everything disappeared? This fear is more common than it seems, and it's often the very creator of the circumstances they fear. Often, those who attract wealth subconsciously sabotage themselves. Doubts, worries, and the fear of loss create a negative energy that ultimately attracts what they fear most. However, Esteban was about to discover a profoundly transformative truth. Wealth is not a destination to be reached and then lost, but a frequency to which one must constantly tune. It's like a musician who tunes his instrument before each concert. The harmony of abundance can only be achieved by maintaining a constant vibration. In his quest to understand how to stay aligned with this frequency, Esteban decided to visit a wise old man who was known for his wisdom about the nature of money and prosperity. The old man, with his deep and serene gaze, revealed a truth that would completely change the way Esteban viewed his life and his wealth. The universe doesn't give you wealth only to take it away. It's just that, in human nature, we are dominated by fear and doubt, creating the illusion that everything that comes can go. Wealth, like abundance, is a constant vibration. It's up to us to learn to maintain that tuning. These words resonated deeply within Esteban. He began to understand that the true key wasn't in achieving a certain number or material state of success, but in maintaining an unbreakable connection with the vibration of prosperity. True wealth isn't measured in coins or possessions, but in the internal frequency one cultivates day after day. From that revelation, Esteban decided to undertake a personal challenge, a challenge that would last 30 days, a complete cycle of transformation in which he would seek to reconnect his being with the frequency of abundance. He knew it wouldn't be an easy process, but he felt it was the right time to immerse himself in this practice. Every morning, upon waking, he sat quietly and closed his eyes. With each inhalation, he imagined absorbing the vibration of universal abundance. With each exhalation, he released all the doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs he had accumulated throughout his life. During these 30 days, Esteban committed to maintaining his consciousness at that vibrational frequency of prosperity. This wasn't just a momentary affirmation. It was an ongoing commitment to the flow of abundance in his life. In the early days, thoughts of insecurity appeared strongly. Esteban felt he wasn't ready to sustain that vibration, but he decided to persist. When doubt came, he observed it without judgment and let it go, as if it were a passing cloud. His task wasn't to eliminate the doubt, but to not cling to it. As the days passed, the results were subtle but surprising. The people who came to his workshop seemed more interested in his work. Opportunities, as if called by the universe, began to arrive in unexpected ways. A random collector appeared in his life, offering a sum he would never have considered possible before. The small financial miracles seemed to happen effortlessly, and Esteban realized this was no coincidence. At the end of the 30 days, Esteban realized something fundamental. Wealth isn't a static concept, nor is it a goal that is achieved and then lost. True abundance lies in maintaining that constant vibration, in learning to align with it every day, regardless of external circumstances. He had managed to tune into his abundance frequency, and that frequency had accompanied him every step of his journey. This 30-day challenge had taught him that money, prosperity, and abundance are not a matter of material accumulation, but of energetic connection. When one manages to maintain that connection, the flow of wealth becomes natural, something that is not lost, but multiplied. So Stephen continued on his way, no longer afraid of losing what he had gained. He had realized that the only thing he could lose was his alignment with abundance. And as long as he maintained that connection, nothing could take away what was already rightfully his. If you ever find yourself facing the fear of losing what you've achieved, remember that wealth doesn't depend on numbers on a piece of paper, but on the vibration you maintain within yourself. The key isn't money, but the frequency you tune into. And when you achieve this, abundance will always be yours. Sacred practice for eternal prosperity. 30 days of transformation. At dawn, when the first rays of the sun caress the earth, wake up with a deep sense of gratitude in your heart. Place your hands on your chest, close your eyes for a moment, and feel the heartbeat of your being resonating in perfect harmony with the universe. In that moment, breathe deeply and firmly declare, "I am one with the unlimited abundance that flows through all things." The flow of prosperity surrounds me, and the universe responds to my vibration with infinite generosity. My connection to wealth is constant and fluid. As the day begins, remember that every thought, every word, and every action has the power to attract or repel abundance. So, every time you interact with money, whether receiving it, spending it, or simply thinking about it, take a conscious pause. Stop, breathe, and affirm with an open heart. Every moment I experience with money strengthens my connection to universal abundance. There is no lack in my life, only a constant expansion of opportunity. Allow these words to permeate your being. If you feel fear or doubt when spending, replace that thought with confidence. If when receiving you feel unworthy, remember that you are an open channel for the flow of the universe to reach you unhindered. Through each experience, you strengthen your alignment with prosperity. When night falls, before you close your eyes, look for 3 manifestations of abundance in your day. No matter how small they may seem, even the simplest gestures are a sign of the universe's generosity. Perhaps it was a moment of peace, a shared smile, or a meal that arrived at your table effortlessly. Pause and feel the deep gratitude welling up in your heart. Thank you, universe, for every blessing. Thank you for every manifestation of abundance, for every opportunity you've given me to grow, learn, and prosper. My heart is filled with gratitude. This act of recognition, however simple, opens the door to the expansion of prosperity in your life. Gratitude not only attracts more reasons to be grateful, but it also locks your vibration into a constant frequency of abundance. Upon reaching the 30th day, you will be ready to perform an integration ritual that will seal this new vibration in your being, making it an inseparable part of you. Find a quiet place where you can connect deeply with your inner self. Light a candle, symbolizing the light that now shines within you. With the flame before you, close your eyes and declare with complete conviction, "I seal this frequency of abundance as my permanent vibration. Just as the sun never stops shining, my prosperous consciousness is eternal, unbreakable, and ever expanding. I am one with the infinite wealth of the universe." Feel the energy of your words settle in your heart, your mind, and every cell of your body. You are sowing a profound seed of prosperity in your life, one that will grow and expand beyond your imagination. Like a tree growing from a tiny seed, your abundance consciousness took firm root in your being. Now, that tree grows, reaching upward and outward in all directions. You will flow in harmony with the cosmic laws that govern wealth creation, and you will see how the universe conspires to bring opportunities that align perfectly with your new vibration. Your presence will be so magnetic that prosperity will begin to come to you with astonishing ease, as naturally as the moon attracts the tides. You will be in sync with the forces of the universe, and every step you take will lead you toward a future filled with infinite possibilities. Remember that this practice is not only about attracting wealth, but about transforming your relationship with abundance. Scarcity will no longer be part of your experience. It will become as alien to you as darkness is to light, because when your consciousness expands to prosperity, there is no longer room for fear, doubt, or lack. This is just the beginning of your journey toward a life of infinite abundance. With each passing day, you'll see opportunities multiply, resources align, and your life fill with a constant flow of generosity from the universe. And best of all, this flow will never stop growing because you've tuned your being to the frequency of eternal wealth. Just as a seed grows into a tree that endlessly bears fruit, your consciousness thrives, growing and flourishing in all areas of your life. And on this path, you will always remember that the secret to true abundance lies in maintaining your connection to this frequency. Prosperity is yours, and always has been. You've only had to acknowledge it and allow it to flow through you. The awakening of the channel of inner abundance. Deep within the wisdom that has endured through the centuries, a sacred truth stands with unshakable force. You are not separate from the wealth you long to find. The universe did not design you to struggle in vain, but to be a channel of eternal, natural abundance that flows effortlessly. Every master and sage of the ages has revealed the same revelation. Wealth is not something external that is tirelessly pursued, but an internal power that is awakened. Imagine this power as a river that flows endlessly. This is your connection to universal abundance. It knows no end. It just waits for you to recognize it and accept it into your life. This journey you've undertaken, of self-discovery and openness, has dissolved the illusions that kept you bound to limitation. Now you know something essential and profound. Money, like everything else, is energy. And that energy responds directly to the consciousness you hold within. When you vibrate at the correct frequency of abundance, wealth has no choice but to manifest in your life. You don't have to chase it. It's already within you, waiting to be recognized and embraced. Look inside yourself and make a powerful and transformative affirmation. I am the source. The power I thought I was looking for outside has always been within me. Every financial blessing, every manifestation of abundance flows from this deep alignment with inner wealth. And when you connect with this truth, the universe can do nothing but respond with generosity. The universe, which has always been waiting for you, only asks you a simple question: how much are you willing to receive? Because there are no limits to what can flow to you when you affirm yourself as the conscious creator of your own abundance. The cosmic laws that govern the flow of wealth adjust to your consciousness, shaping your reality to reflect the highest and most expansive vision you have of yourself and the world. You don't need to ask permission to prosper. This is the great revelation the ancient masters left us. Wealth is your divine inheritance. It is your natural state, your birthright. With every step you take, with every conscious breath, you affirm this truth within your being. This knowledge is the key to unlocking a future of limitless prosperity. And when you allow yourself to walk with certainty, like the wise man who knew his divinity and his ability to create, the universe conspires to bring you what you most desire, in ways you may not be able to imagine at this moment. Remember, abundance is not a destination reached after a long journey filled with sacrifices, but a vibrational frequency activated within you. All you need to do is align yourself with that frequency. And when you do, the universe will open before you like a fertile field that welcomes every seed of wealth you plant. Stop looking outside yourself for what has always been within. Because within you lies unlimited potential, a direct connection to the eternal flow of universal abundance. Money, opportunities, prosperity, everything you once thought was foreign to you, is waiting to align with your consciousness. And when you affirm yourself as the conscious creator of your life, when you recognize yourself as the source of everything you desire, you will become a magnet for the blessings of the universe. Because you will no longer live in doubt or scarcity. Your being will be a pure channel through which flows everything the universe has to offer. So, walk with the certainty that you are worthy of all the abundance you desire. This is your divine right, your eternal inheritance. There are no limits for you. There are no barriers that stop you. It is only waiting for you to recognize your power, to accept your role as a channel of wealth, and to move forward with the confidence that the universe will align to support everything you are and everything you dream of. This is your moment, your awakening. The path to eternal abundance isn't in the distant future. It's here, in the present, within you. Simply acknowledge it, and all the power of the universe will be within your reach.